Welcome to Simply Sarah. I'm Sarah Stockham, your host, and delighted that you are here, whether you're choosing to listen live or if you are like so many who listen to this, watch this as it fits into their schedule. We love that both of those options are available for you, our audience around the globe. And today is a very special conversation. But before we get to that, we want to say thank you to our sponsors, to Michelle Bell Art. You can find her under that name on Instagram. Also, for the Stegner family for their steadfast encouragement for the things that we are doing here, and also for the artofforgiving.com. And then for today, for this guest who has been with us before, we are so excited to have Gary Barnes International back with us again for another conversation. This one centering around your latest #1 Amazon best-selling book, Overcoming You, Stories of Strength, Struggle, and Success. Gary, we are delighted that you are here with us.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation back. It's my honor.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Tell us a little bit about how you chose, after being a #1 bestseller on Amazon for 9 books, how you chose to say, I'm going to open up and allow other people to come and join this whole journey.
That is an interesting question because I have been asked to do a collaboration book before,
Mhm.
and I just never was in tune to doing it. And there was a time I was sitting here at my desk and I got what I call the nudge. And to me, that's that outside source, if you want to call it God, infinite intelligence, whatever. For me, it's God. And it came to me and said, write another book. And I went, no. I have already had 9. I am a speaker that has had to become a writer. I don't enjoy it. It's actually painful. I never learned how to type. So anyway, it's a little more for me to do it. And for 4 days in a row, the nudge came back and said, write another book. And I rejected it all 4 days. And then on the fifth day, it came back and said, write another book. And here is the title, Overcoming You. And I took it to the person that does all of the back end work for my publishing. And she goes, "Oh, this is great. Let's do a collaboration book." And my direct question to her was, "Who would want to do a book with me?" And she
Mhm.
says, "A lot of people." So that's how it came about. I just finally said yes to the nudge, and now we're on the second volume, and you're in the first. And I thought it was a book. My individual Overcoming You book is coming out this year, and the thing I thought was I was doing this for others. And as I've been writing, I realized the nudge had more work for me to do, and so it's been a cathartic side of doing the projects as well.
Gary, you talk about writing taking more, not clarity, because you have that all the time in your speaking and in your day-to-day conversations, but it just taking more effort might be the way of saying it. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think there are some people who think, oh, I can't write because I'm not fluid at it, or it's not a easy process for me. And I don't know anyone for whom it is an easy process, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your particular journey with writing.
Well, writing to me is more about storytelling than about speaking about facts. Now, if you have a training book, something like that, that's a little bit different. But people remember stories, they forget facts. And the stories are already within us. In fact, my very first book, How a Beaver Saved My Life, I had the book cover done for 2 years, and my coach at the time got so angry at me. I flew to California for my coaching session, and he told me to leave and don't talk to him again until the book was done. I got so angry. I came home 6 days later. The book was written.
Wow.
And so for me, I use Dragon professionally speaking, voice actuated software. There's others out there that are very accurate. And it's really about taking a concept of, like with my the individual Overcoming You, I break it out like what Walt Disney did. It's called storyboarding. And I will have 8 to 9, 10 chapters that I think are going to be in the book, but I don't write from chapter 1 to chapter 10. I do it by, I sit down and what part of the story, what part of the message do I really connect with right now? And I go there. And so uh, when I train speakers, this is exactly how we create a talk. I call it a train formula. You have a start, which is the engine, the introduction. You have train cards, which is a point story and action step. And then you have the conclusion, the caboose. And so what we do is we put all these different chapters together, not in order, but then when it's completed, then we can complete the train. And
Yes.
so it comes out so much more organically that way, and we don't get stuck. Because I don't know about you, Sarah, but if I was to look at a blank screen and say, okay, what is the most, what's the start, ending, and I get stuck there. And so, what do we feel? What are we in tune to at
Mm.
the moment? And allow that to come out. And this is the other thing: it's never going to be perfect.
Thank
That's what editors are for. They make us look really good.
you too.
And so our job is to get the message out in some form and that another person can organize for us.
And your editor, Cher Devon, when I submitted my story, part of my story was that after the last conversation that we had, that we recorded, um, we had a few minutes left. And so I just asked you what your next project was. And you began sharing about this book, Overcoming You. And so when we finished recording, then I began asking you some more questions about it. And I knew I didn't have time to write another full book. But when you said it's a chapter, I thought, oh, and then for me, that nudge was so present as well. And also for me, that's God, the divine. And in that space, I thought, okay, I'm going to be obedient, but this will never be published. And so I spent some time that afternoon just kind of hand jotted out because for me, there's such a direct connection between my brain and my feelings and my hand. So writing it out. And I thought, okay, this is out of my head this way. And so early the next morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, which is earlier than I typically get up, I woke up and I just had all of these words. I felt like I could just open up my eyes and grab the words. And I thought, oh, I need to get out of bed and grab the laptop and start writing. And so I did that. And it was a Sunday morning early. And by 8 o'clock breakfast, I had a rough draft. I sent it off to you. And I'm like, phew, I've been obedient. I am done with this project. Gary will never say yes to my story. And then you read it and you said, this is what we're looking for. And then I spent the next, I don't know, 3 weeks going, am I really ready? Am I ready to share this story with the world? Because it was finally out of me. But that space then of having Cher Devon work with me on editing it just made it so much more of a flow rather than the emotional high points and points of the story. And so you are right about having an incredible editor that takes what you have written and is able to then see the big picture and allow the flow to happen in such a sacred way.
Well, and one of the things over the years, I think, resistance that I had to do a collaboration book was people were put in just for the money. And so the stories were not connected. And when the overcoming you concept came to me, it was the pivot points. Everybody has a point where we changed direction. There was a stimulus. How did we get over the adversity, whatever it might have been? And that is the thread through this entire book. And that's what excited me. And I went, oh, I can see how it works for this reason. So everyone has that ability to share the story. See, just like we are the subject, but not the message. And when we speak, when we write, it's about the audience. And the other thing about writing a book or being a part of a book is that people don't throw books away. That's an amazing thing.
It
And
is.
so it's also a little scary because when we speak, we forget about it. People forget we were on stage or whatever it might be. And with a book, it's in print, it's there kind of forever.
Yes.
And so there's a little more of a exposure, if you will, to it. but there's a more of a permanency to it as well. And becoming an author in any sense is so unique in the United States
Mhm.
because, well, on average, the average American reads less than one book a year. So they don't know authors. And I've been on airplanes and I've been around people and they go, are you a real, oh, you're a real life author? I've never sat next to a real author before. And I'm going, okay, well, I don't know what that means, but so it's something that can actually uh, create a curiosity for people to want to know more about you and the rest of the message as well.
So, so true. When you began talking to people about coming into this collaboration from the very beginning, were there specific types of stories that you wanted, or was it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I don't create a scenario. That's part of following the nudge. And the stories, it's like when I also produce events, and
Mhm.
when I have my guest speakers come in, we never speak about coordinating our messages, but at the end the people come to me and they go, there are nuggets and pieces of connection with every speaker. And I go, yes, it's organic. And so part of this was allowing the individuals that organically were coming in, if they had a story. Now, if somebody was coming in and we did have one to where they just want to do it as a promotion, and I said, this is not the right book for you. And in essence, I would say you're not the right person for this book either. But we want something that is they're completely different stories, but there's threads of synergy that happens in each story. So that's what we were looking for, what I was looking for, but I didn't create it. I didn't say, okay, this is your story over here, this is a health story, this is a relationship story, this is a finance. No, we did none of that.
I also think that the space of looking at the chapter titles is so profound as well. To know that each person, and there may have been some editing that went along with that, but so so remarkable. Tell us a little bit about the nudge. How do you sense that? How long in your life have you? When did this begin?
You know, it actually, as I look back, I've been in tune to it for a very long time, but I ignored it
Mm,
because I was taught that that voice inside of me was me talking to me.
mm,
And then I started realizing when I didn't, reflect and take the voice that was coming to me, uh, taking that advice, I was making bad decisions.
mm,
And so it was really that trust factor, and we can call it intuition. We can,
mm,
but a lot of the times when I speak to someone, they say, you know, I I knew I shouldn't have done that. Then my question is, why did you? You weren't following your own intuition, your own inspiration within, and it's not you talking to you. And that's the weirdest thing for people to understand. In fact, they've looked inside of you and you weren't there. Uh, it's a physics thing, So we're dealing in a little difference, whether it's a spiritual or an intellectual connected with emotional. I think it's all blended together.
mm,
And so when we start trusting ourselves, if you go to a restaurant, the next time you're in a busy restaurant, listen to the tables ordering uh, beside you. People will be asking other people what are they ordering so they know what to order themselves. Or they'll ask the server, what's good here? What are they going to say? Don't eat the fish. You know, it's what do you want? What's on your menu? And
mm,
having, and this really reflects back to another thing that I have found working with people in 8 different countries and throughout the U.S. is that we have a negative belief that we do not deserve.
mm,
And because of that, we are giving away our empowerment to virtually everyone else and to please everyone else.
mm,
And a lot of that is tied to this concept of uh, credibility. And as long as our validation is external, will always be wanting.
Mhm.
But when it's internal, it will never be perfect, but it'll always be enough.
Mm.
And so it's having that voice. So a lot of things here that are connected.
I'm just taking in those words about how that space of wanting versus that space of it always being enough. Can you expand on that a little bit? And I'm asking this very selfishly for me, Gary, from that point of view that I spent some time in the last season or so thinking about how I am so blessed. And yet I find myself in this space of wanting. And my in this new season, I'm using the word enjoy. That's my intention, is to enjoy, to be able to be satisfied in the space in a different way. And I would love for you to speak to that because you just did that so eloquently.
What I was hearing, what your question was, is how to be grateful
Mm.
and still not satisfied.
Love that.
Because satisfaction or being satisfied is saying I'm done.
Mm.
And when we know that there's another level here in Colorado, I've climbed 14,000-foot mountains. The most difficult thing about climbing a 14er is the false summits. You see the summit and you think it is, and you get there and there's another one behind it, another one behind it. Some of the mountains have 3 and 4 false summits.
Right.
And the exciting part for me is the more that I know, the more that I know that I don't know.
Mhm.
There's another level of achievement, there's another level of growth. Now, it's not about ego, though. It's also understanding, for me, when I in my careers and the work that I have done, I've been around very large amounts of money.
Mhm.
And I realized if the amount is too big, subtract a zero. If it's too small, add a zero. In the end, they're all zeros. It's all made up.
Right.
So what is the so that? Doing the Overcoming You book
Mhm.
was a so that to get it accomplished, but once it was created, what is the so that now for that book, for the authors that were part of it? It's not just that, okay, now magic happens, now we go on and we forget, and we don't. Part of it is we don't celebrate what we have accomplished, what we have achieved, what we have received.
Mhm.
And because of over the last, probably 20 years, there's been this concept of abundance and the
Mhm.
abundance mentality. But it's interesting that people still live in a lack world in an abundance mentality. And the part of that is the receiving. So let me ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Is it better to give or to receive?
Hmm. There's such a space that opens up when I give that never exists in the receiving part of it.
Okay. So here's the second question. How can you give without first receiving?
And in our faith belief, it is that he first gave and therefore we receive, right? So I fully hear what you are saying, that the receiving part is always, I mean, when we were born, we are receiving life. And then in each of our days, we are receiving growth. And so, yeah.
See, abundance, J. Paul Getty said he was asked how much is enough at the end of his life, and his answer was just a little bit more. That to me is not abundance because he never won. He was never grateful in the moment for what was there. But being grateful and satisfied means we're putting limitations on the receiving.
Mm.
And it's like I asked a client yesterday, I said, can you actually make money, make more money? And she goes, yes, I can. I go, you go to jail for that.
Be printing press in the back.
That's called counterfeiting.
Right.
And so I said, no, it's more of a process of receiving from any source. And then it's what that money does. It's going beyond the dollars. So it's not the biggest bank account, it's the biggest impact. So there have been so many people I've had that come to me and they go, "We would love to do this charity or this project or help this family out, but we just don't have the resources." Well, why don't you have the resources? So for most of us, we have had over the period of time beliefs implanted on us. In fact, I've heard it in many areas of give till it hurts.
Mm.
And I turned it around and give till it feels good. But
Yes.
if you don't have the resources, you're not able to give till it feels good.
Right.
And so you're taking care of your family. It doesn't mean that you don't live in a nice house, you drive a nice car, whatever. A lot of people think that just because I drive a BMW, I have status.
Mm.
And when they find out that I only paid $17,000 for that car, it had 50,000 miles on it, and nobody can tell that it is as old as it is. I bought the car because it's convertible and I love it. That I'm grateful every time I put the top down and I have the sun and the wind and all that. And
Yes.
so it's not about status. Again, it goes back to it's not about ego.
Mhm.
If our identity is in invalidation, is in our bio, our introduction, in what we wear, where we live, then we're out of sync in my mind. We're
Mm.
out of balance. But there was a old TV show with Walter Brennan. Now, if you're not 40 or above, you probably don't remember who Walter Brennan was, but he was an actor, and there was a western that he was in, and they played gun, uh, uh, the fastest gun in the West. And there's every episode there'd be some cowboy come into the saloon and say, "I hear you're the fastest gun in the West," and Walter would turn around and go, "No brag, just fact." And so when we have this and we see what we have done, but I consider myself the kid next door.
Right.
And that's not a demeaning of me in any way, but what I'm wanting to convey is everything, anything I have done, you can do.
Mm.
Everything that I am still wanting to do, I can do. How can I get there? How expansion is my word for the rest of my life.
Mm.
I impact more people in more ways and leave a legacy, breadcrumbs for when I'm not on the planet anymore.
In this space of a new beginning, a new season, a new year, all of those different pieces, what are some of the things that you see as worthy of expansion in your own life?
Really, what I look for, I just wrote an article about this. And most of the time, anything that we start new, we expect a different result doing the same things we had done before the decision to do something new. So, whether it be at the beginning of the year, a new project, whatever it might be.
Right.
And to take a inventory, if you will, what have you been doing to get this result and what needs adjusting or did adding or subtracting.
Mhm.
So there's that old adage doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. The number one thing that I have found that humans hate doing is change.
Definitely.
We like predictability, we like the comfort, but when we look at growth, I use the hermit crab as an example in this in when I speak to audiences because a hermit crab grows and it doesn't have its own shell.
Right.
So it has a shell, it finds a shell. There is a point where he has to make or she has to make a decision to either leave the comfort and the protection of that shell to go find a bigger shell or die.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's where dreams die. Is we get to a point, and if we're not willing to go and be uncomfortable, have a fear. People say, "But I'm afraid." I go, "Good. You're supposed to be. It's new." And there's two types of fear: the fear that immobilizes you, deer in the headlights, and that's not good. But also the fear. Now, fear and excitement, the brain waves are exactly the same.
Mhm.
And so if we look at it as a new exciting dawning of the day, now that doesn't mean to go haphazardly down the road and just, throw caution to the wind. That's not what I'm talking about. But when we decide that we either grow or we stagnate, then it's a personal decision. And I always, it hurts me to see people stagnating when I see so much value that they have and that they would just take that next step. We're not talking about, I say this all the time, we're running a marathon, not a sprint.
Correct.
And momentum does not mean speed, it means movement.
Mm,
So when we take those steps, and the longest journey starts with a single step.
yeah.
And 2 years ago, overcoming you was not even on my radar at
Mhm.
all. Opportunities come because people see us and they want that connection or they see that opportunity to collaborate. And it's amazing what happens when we are willing to be vulnerable enough to step out into the unknown.
I think that stepping out into the unknown is the place of, for me, it goes so much easier and better when I have had enough sleep, when I have eaten well, when I am hydrated, when I feel safe in my relationships. Then taking that next step, even though it may feel very vulnerable or feel um, that space of sparkly excitement that can also be known as fear. Uh, that is almost it's almost like, yeah, of course I'll embrace that, and let's give it a try. But I when those things are not in place, when I haven't been sleeping well, when I haven't made it a point to get to bed to sleep, when I haven't been eating well, when I am dehydrated for either traveling or just not drinking enough water, any of those pieces there, when I feel like I have a close relationship that feels a little bit prickly, um, I I find myself being much more cautious and much more timid in this space of taking that next step. And I love how you talk about the nudge being this something that it's a knowingness of for me, oftentimes I can see it, not visually outside of myself, but I just get this flash of this is what the next thing is. And part of my intention for this new season is to not only really be listening to those, but then to take the action afterwards. Because there have been times that I've certainly gotten those nudges and I have just tucked that aside, like, oh, thank you very much for that information, rather than, hey, this is a directional sign, do something with this.
It's interesting when we get a nudge and we ignore it, and
Mhm.
then 6 months later we see somebody else took that nudge. See, the nudge doesn't only come to us. That's something that is amazing to think about.
Mhm.
Uh, and then we see somebody else actuate that nudge and produce a result, and we go, "Oh, I had that idea before,"
Yeah.
But it's always a choice because it may not be the right timing.
Mhm.
And what you're describing is being out of balance.
Mhm.
And when we're out of balance, it's very difficult to accomplish. It's like running in molasses instead of filling your tank. Driver personalities are we're interesting. I'm an expressive driver, so I've got to have fun, but I know where I'm going and get out of my way, and we're going to get there. But if we don't stop and fill our tank,
Mhm.
then we're going to sabotage what we really want to accomplish. People, my wife tells me I'm totally or extrovert, but actually I'm an ambivert. An
Mhm.
ambivert is someone that when we're on stage, we're with people. I enjoy being with you. I mean, it's just, but when I'm off, we're not going to parties. We're homebodies. We go up into the mountains. I love sitting on the beach by myself.
Yeah.
We have to do that internal work and give ourselves the ability and permission to re-energize so that we do have something to give. And so sometimes people get a little annoyed with me when I won't go to a birthday party or go out. It just, I appreciate the invitations, but it's
Mhm.
rare that I do something like that unless I get a nudge. But
Mhm.
it's if we don't protect ourselves, we have nothing to
Mhm.
give to others as well.
Gary, I really appreciate you speaking so clearly to that space of being able to be on stage and to be with people and do all the fun things and be connecting in those spaces. And yet, that space when you're home of being selective, just like you are selective in your speaking engagements, selective in the other things that you want to do in your life, because you're looking at your full life and determining what it is that you want to be doing, and also leaving that space for the nudge. But so importantly, doing that self care, that space of quieting the inner being and just being able to be, to enjoy, to celebrate, to look back and to have space to think and allow creativity to bubble up in a whole new way as a result of that. I find that when we're too busy, whatever that too busy happens to be for whatever the season, that it's really easy to miss those opportunities to um, connect in differently, to listen differently, to have these new ideas flow through in a complete package way. You might get some little hints to it, but not to be able to see the whole thing. And that's not just because we haven't been quiet. There are other reasons for that as well, where we don't get the whole picture. Sometimes we just don't get the whole picture. But I love that space of being able to be quiet, not for an agenda reason, but being quiet for the sake of being quiet.
Absolutely. And something you said triggered a thought when you said, when we get busy.
Mhm.
Busyness is not productivity.
Oh, so good.
And so a lot of times when we're doing something, whether it be in family or social or giving to a group, an association, a charity, is it the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail? And one of the things that I suggest to my clients, whenever we have opportunities, we have a tendency to say, is it a good, bad opportunity?
Right.
And instead of doing that, I would like to suggest that you say, does this opportunity take me towards or away from my ultimate objective, my ultimate outcome that I want?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then all we're saying it's not the right fit for me. It's not that it's bad. So you can still help that person because the more you're seeing, the more you're seen as the perfect solution for a lot of people is what they're doing. And so, and it's not bad for them to come to you and say, hey, we've got this project. I have one on the table that I was talking to a couple of people tomorrow or yesterday, and I don't know if it's the right fit, but we're exploring it. So and if it isn't, we can still support that person in the project, but
Sure.
not participate into it.
Yeah.
Because the reality, when we decide to do something, we're deciding to do 100%, not to do 100% of everything else.
Yeah. Gary, you have this story that you referenced earlier in our conversation today about that you were told to go home and to not come back until you'd finished writing the story about the beaver who saved your life. Tell us a little bit. Give us a thumbnail of that story.
In 1988, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so the doctor said I would be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. And obviously, I'm still here many years after, but I had a choice. And I had lost all feelings, all functionality from the neck down. And so it was a very interesting, scary time. I was right in the middle of my financial planning career. I had built a national financial planning firm as a solo producer, top 3% in production. I didn't have time for this detour. This was not on the agenda. It was not on my calendar. But I knew enough to where if I had believed the doctor, that would be my end result. And so for me, I had a visualization, and that was really before visualization was really talked about or known. I knew about Norman Cousin and using laugh therapy to put himself in the remission, and the old Pac-Man video game eating up cancer cells. And anyway, long story short, I was laying in bed, and a beaver shows up, and so I went, oh, that's nice. And he turns around and patches up the nylon sheath. And I created a whole army of beavers, both taking care of me and me taking care of them. And it was 8 to 9 months before I started getting any feelings back at all. But what I learned from that is that we have choices because my one of my assistants in the office, her sister-in-law was diagnosed at the same time I was. And she went home, went to bed, accepted all of the prognosis, and 3 to 4 months later she died.
Right.
And the thing that this is not a guarantee. This is not a magical system, whatever. But when we focus on something, the ability to get to where we want to go normally shows up. It may not be the way we had envisioned it, but after I sold the financial planning practice, people kept wanting me to write the book. And I'm going, no, I had never written a book. I didn't want to write a book. And the interesting thing is that the original title to that book was Into the Night, The Road from Adversity to Triumph. Now,
Mm.
I didn't realize that Into the Night was one of the most popular titles to romance novels and country songs. It was getting all kinds, and so I was speaking one day and had the book, and a woman heard me, bought the book, and then sent me now what is known as Big Betty Beaver. It's a 3 foot stuffed beaver. It's a plush toy, and but the representation of the message in the book to a physical item, my coach got so excited he said we're going to change the title to How a Beaver Saved My Life.
Mm.
And that goes back to something you were talking about, the titles in the Overcoming You book, is that within 30 days of changing that title, I was speaking in LA and a PR agency was there from Washington, D.C. And she goes, I don't care if you hire me at all. I'm taking you to PBS to do that story.
Wow.
TEDx called me to do that story. I never applied, but it's part of this. I get tired of telling that story. By the way, uh, when it's almost like going to your favorite band and hearing them from the day. If they don't play that song you came to hear, you feel disappointed.
Mm.
And just a few weeks ago, I didn't tell the story at a talk. They brought me back on stage to do that story. So it's just, and also you get people remember the story because they put themselves into the story.
Yes.
It's not about MS. And when I wrote the How a Beaver Saved My Life, people think it's an MS book. It isn't. It's an adversity book.
Yes.
Like, how did we overcome? What did we do to adjust?
Mm.
Things. I'm a drummer, and I gave up drumming, and because no feelings in the hands. But
Right.
now, a drum store had taken pity on me. They created a grommet. I attached the sticks to my hands, and I still play. Uh,
So love that.
so it's how do we get the experience? What do we get the result that we want? But having permission to dream again.
Yeah.
That the possibilities are still there. Think about the time in history that we now live in. You know, it hasn't been that long ago that people were having to decide how much they could eat because of the limitations of the food, the growth, whatever. They're in small communities. And today we wake up and go, okay, which restaurant do I want to go to today?
Yeah.
The flexibility, so the ability to create and to, and this is the other thing. I don't know that the opportunities, we don't create opportunities.
Mm.
Opportunities are already there. We're just not aware of them. And so as we open ourselves up to possibilities, which turn into probabilities, then we see opportunities that are already there to see if they fit. And that gets really exciting because there's always, it's the never ending story. And well, I'm in that baby boomer category, and we don't retire.
We don't.
It's just one of those things that get out of my way. Let's go fast, go boom. I've flown a P-51 World War II fighter a couple of years ago. I've climbed mountains. I do all kinds of weird, but I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm an experience junkie, an adventure junkie. that
Yeah.
new experience that allows me to expand my awareness, my thinking.
Mm.
It just That's what excites me. Because when I meet somebody, in fact, there was somebody on Facebook that had sent me a friend request, and she just wrote back because always reply, "Would you like to get on a Zoom call for us to see, how we could, collaborate?" And she goes, "Well, I'm not up to hiring you." And I wrote back, I go, "It wasn't a sales call. I want to know the story behind the story,
Yes.
and you're another human being out there, and how can we build this synergy of spider webbing of connections and collaborations?"
Mm.
And it's like the geese. We're not. In fact, one of my Garyisms, which is another one of my books, the book of Garyisms, but life is a solo journey traveled with many.
Mhm.
And when we understand that our situation, if my wife could do nothing for me, she could walk with me through the trials of the MS diagnosis. By the way, I never have said I have. I've always said I was diagnosed with, which means it was somebody else's opinion, and I never put on the identity.
I love that.
And let me, by the way, for those that don't know, this is not scripted. You probably have figured it out. Yeah. What is the difference between broke and poor?
I think part of the difference is a mindset. I think of broke as there is no option forward, like it's a dead end. And I think of poor as being this is a starting place. The basics are available, maybe very remedial, but it's a basic kind of thing. But yet there is still possibility. That's how I see it.
So my definition is very similar to yours. Broke is a point in time.
Hmm.
This is the reality today. This is the amount of resources that I have at my fingertips that I can use.
Mhm.
Poor is a state of mind.
Mm.
Both can be changed. See, if there's any adversity I wish on someone, is let it be financial.
Mm.
That's the easiest thing that we can change. But yet we get into these concepts. Well, I can't do anything else to do whatever, but whatever the stories that we tell.
Yeah.
But that point in time doesn't. It just means, yeah, it's a point in time.
Yeah.
But if we don't change the state of mind, it's never going to change in the point of time.
Mm.
So our state of mind actually creates the broke mentality.
Definitely.
And so, and what is broke? What is like? What is rich? If we're in the Sudan, a family of four, if they're making $400 a year, equated, they're middle class. I
Right.
deal with clients in South Africa that it's amazing what they see as middle class. Here in the United States, it would not even reach our poverty level. And so, but if we're looking at ourselves against, Bill Gates or some of the wealthiest people in the world, now we can feel poor. And the reality is, no. What is it that we want to accomplish? What are our resources? And what are the resources around us that would actually support us without having to pay taxes on those resources? So that ultimate vision is really important.
The ultimate vision is, but also having some clarity. And you've had huge clarity, Gary, on why you choose to publish through Amazon rather than going to the big places. Tell us a little bit about some of your foundational pieces on that. This was a fascinating conversation for me earlier.
Yeah, it really comes down to a business model.
Mm.
Even Seth Godin, I don't know if you know who Seth Godin is. He wrote the book Tribe and many other books, The Purple Cow. And he has gone to self publishing. The reality is it's an ego boost if a publishing house wants you, and they may give you a check. One of my good friends is a former Mr. Universe twice, and every time he gets a check, within 6 months, that publishing house has no more incentive
Mm.
to really market his book. They go on to the next shiny object. and then it goes away. Another one of my clients wrote the marketing book for Facebook. It's a yellow book, the Facebook Marketing for Dummies. And she literally can buy her book for $1 less on Amazon than she can from her own publisher. And so you lose control. That's really what it is. When somebody buys your book on Amazon, and my books are on Amazon,
Mhm.
but they are the clients of Amazon, not your client, not your customer. And so if we go back to the concept of so what to so that, yes,
Mhm.
we want to have our good works in the people's hands. But if I don't know who they are, I don't have a so that.
True.
There's nothing that I can do ongoing. Now there is some tricks to the trade. Uh, we a lot of our books now we put in a QR code in the book for a free giveaway that
Mhm.
people can go in. So even if they buy it from Amazon, they can get the free giveaway as they read the book. And now we have that connection with them. But really, it's about control,
Mhm.
it, having that ability, and you make more money. Frankly, doing it for yourself. Uh, but I want the connection. See, a book is a stepping stone to a relationship.
Yes.
When we realize that, selling a million copies of your book, so uh, uh, oh, is it J.R. Tolkien?
Mhm.
Uh, how many thousands and thousands of books? But there's no way. So you get the money. You or J.K. Rowling's is another one. So you have, Harry Potter.
Right.
She has no idea. Very, very few. She may know some of the
Maybe.
PR people that worked with the book to get it out. But the rank and file, she has no ability to have any sort of relationship with. And that's not her purpose. Her purpose is to do the book, make the money, and write another book. So it's a different outcome for her. For
Mhm.
me, it's really about impact, but also that ability possibly to have that ongoing, whether they're hiring me as a coach, as a speaker coach, or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter to me, or just because it's another human being to human being. To me, that's what is the next so that.
Mhm.
And as a speaker and as a writer, it's rare for us to really hear at times about the impact that we have on people, but when it happens, it really allows us to get up another day because every day is not sunshine and roses and puppy bugs and kittens and all. You know this. There are
Right.
days that you just go, I want to go sell, deliver pizzas. I don't want to talk to another human being. I'm just, yeah. But that's also an indication we can take a break.
Yeah.
Uh, but when we get those indications that we made a difference in somebody's life. We gave them that impetus to take that next step to do whatever it is, and we may not even know ever what that impact is. Do we have time for me to tell you another story about that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I was at the airport. I was going to Boca Raton to work with a coaching client, and I was meeting another coach in Dallas, and then we were going to connect and fly together. Well, I got to the airport and I never talk bad about an airline, but this one has problems, and their initials are AA, and it just always has a crew, an airplane malfunction, something. I get there, and yes, there was a problem, and I wasn't going to make my connection in Dallas, so I called my meeting planner. That's the other key. You have to have a good meeting planner to call. You don't ever go to the help desk at the airport. But anyway, so I have her in my ear, and she goes, okay, go to this gate. It happened to be the next gate over, and it was going to Charlotte. And I could get route to Charlotte and get to Boca about the same time as the other person. So I'm go to that gate, and they go, no, it's already closed. It's too late. And my meeting planner's in my ear, and she says, say this, and I'm smiling. I'm just happy. If I get on, great. If I don't get on, I'm not banging on the table, whatever.
Right.
And she keeps saying, no, no, no. I don't care who's on the phone, what she's telling you. No, And finally, another gate agent comes in and bangs out a pass. And she says, "We're opening the door for you. Get down the gangway. You're holding us up." Never heard that before. So I get on. It's a stretch, which means there's two exit aisles in
Yes.
the middle of the airplane. And I get to the middle, and there's a gentleman there, an older gentleman. I find out later that he had flown as a steward for 30 years with the airline. And
Wow.
he goes, "Is that your seat?" It was an aisle seat on the exit row. And I go, "No, I'm back in the back there." He goes, "No, that's your seat. Sit down." So I'm now on the wrong airplane, in the wrong seat, going to the wrong city.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there. I have books that I needed to autograph. That's something else that gets weird. But I was, and so it was the Beaver book that I had out, and I was writing the autographs on it. And there was nobody in the middle seat, and so I was laying the book down. A flight attendant comes down the aisle, and she looks at it, and she goes, "Oh, I just love animal stories." And then she sees me with the beaver, and she goes, "That's you." And I said, "Oh, well, could I gift you a book?" And she goes, "Oh, okay." And I got her name. So they go away. They come down with the food cart. And I hand her book. And she takes it and hugs it. And she goes, "No one has ever given me a book before." And I'm going, "Okay, I did it." Okay. She goes, "Drinks. Yeah, drinks are on me for the entire flight." I go, "I don't drink." Drink is out the window. I go, He goes, "I don't drink." She goes, "Here." And she grabs all the cookies and throws it in my lap. And I go, "Oh, well, that's like," and the kids look at her and go, "Who are you?" She goes, "Oh, here." And she goes, "Food. I'm going to feed you." I go, "I'm really okay. It's okay." She goes, "No." And she throws a hoagie in my face. Like, oh, golly. So she goes on, and we get finished with the meal. And for the next 2 hours, we don't see another flight attendant. We land in Charlotte, and the older gentleman, I get up to leave, and he goes, "You are impressive." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "We have been in the back of the airplane reading your book." I get off. Now, my connection flight is one gate over from where we landed.
Beautiful.
It never happened. So I'm
Never.
sitting there. The flight attendant that I gave the book to, that was her home base. She
Wow.
comes off the airplane. She runs up to me, throws her arms around my neck, and she goes, "Thank you. You have no idea how much I needed to read your book today because of what I'm going through."
Mm.
I have a picture with her, but I don't know her name. I don't know what it was that she was going through, but I was on the wrong airplane, sitting in the wrong seat, going to the wrong city for the right reason.
Yes.
The power of a book. The book was the catalyst, but it was also something else. I was willing to follow the nudge.
Mhm.
I was okay getting on, getting off, whatever. It just so when we have these diversions at times, look for the opportunities. But it's all connected. It's not just one thing that we do, and it makes life really interesting.
Gary, I have loved this time with you. It has been such a beautiful way to start this new year, this new space, this new season. And I'm so excited about the authors that we're going to be talking to over the next few weeks in the book Overcoming You Stories of Strength, Struggle, and Success. And thank you so much for your magnanimous offer to people to be able to share their stories for the sake of sharing their story, for the impact it'll make on other people's lives, and then for the incredible blessing of becoming a #1 Amazon best-selling author as a result of, with sweaty hands, picking up a pad and starting to write my story out. You are a life changer, and I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you.
Well, birds of a feather flock together, and I see the work that you're doing, and it was such an honor to have you part of that project. It's an ongoing relationship,
Yes,
and it's going to be exciting to see what's next.
it is. And Gary, you also offer a free option for people who are listening in. We will have it in the bio. So if you are interested in learning more from Gary, just go ahead and click on that link and get that information. We're just so grateful for you.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity again to be here.
Absolutely. And to our audience, we say thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening to the end. We're so grateful for our sponsors, for their incredible support and the work that we are doing, and we are grateful. Have an incredible rest of your day. And until next time, take great care of you.